Today, we're going to go through how you can put React hooks right next to the JSX that it affects using RenderHooks. Yes, you can actually do that now. This is a library that claims not to break any of the rules of React. But how does it really work? And can this code be optimized by the React compiler? Let's find out. But before we do, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So here is a super basic React project with all the hooks at the top. So we've got 2 use states and 1 use ref. Now this count and set count only applies to this piece of code. So we've got a counter with a decrement and an increment and a reset button. Then these 2 hooks, so the use state for the background color and the use ref, only apply to this section of code where the user can change the color via an input, and that would change the background color of this div. But if we were to replace all this code with RenderHooks, it would look like this. So instead of importing hooks at the top of the file, we just import RenderHooks using this $. We can use that to wrap around a component, and that allows us to use hooks wherever we want in the JSX. So we can clearly see that this block of code applies to the counter and all the hooks are encapsulated inside it, as well as this block down here only applies to the input that triggers a background change. And if we go to the browser, we can see the app works as expected. Now, I'm sure you've already spotted a few problems with this approach, which I'll come back to later. But does this actually obey the rules of hooks when hooks should only be called on the top level? Well, kind of. So this is all the code for RenderHooks, just 62 lines, and it's actually pretty simple. So over here, we have the core helpers, and all that's doing is running the collect hooks function on React and React DOM, and this finds all the functions with the word use inside them and puts them into an object. So we can see here, this is the type for core helpers, and it has all the hooks that React uses. So this includes hooks from React 16 all the way to React 19. Then once it has all those hooks, it puts them in a React memo and adds the hooks prop from here, which is how you add custom hooks. Then it passes those hooks as helpers in the children function, allowing you to use them in your code. So technically they are set up on the top level, but are not called on the top level. So it's a bit of a gray area. But now let's move on to potential problems, one of which is the React compiler, which assumes your project is following the rules of React. So we can see that this project without RenderHooks is automatically memoized by the React compiler. But the same project with RenderHooks has not been automatically memoized. Wow. However, the creator of RenderHooks has stressed that he's working on a solution to be compatible with the React compiler. Another potential issue is, say I wanted to apply the background color not just to this div, but to the whole project. If I was using RenderHooks alone, I would have to move this hook a lot higher in the process and wrap the whole JSX in the RenderHooks component, which could end up having nested hooks like this. And if I'm being honest, this is more difficult to read than just putting all the hooks at the top of the file. So bottom line, would I use RenderHooks? Well, if the hook is tightly coupled to the component, then this is actually a nice way of writing it. I never thought I'd come around to RenderHooks, but if you construct the component in a function like this, then this is actually kind of nice. But if a hook variable is used in multiple places, I definitely will not use RenderHooks for that scenario. But what do you think?